20 years of secrets revealed, my son discovered his true father, my life-changing revenge story. Emily could feel the weight of those words echo through her mind as she stood behind the diner counter, the familiar smell of bacon and fresh coffee wrapping around her like a warm hug. For 20 years, this small diner had been her sanctuary, a place filled with laughter, stories, and the occasional heartbreak. Regulars greeted her like family, their smiles a testament to the comfort of greasy diner food. But beneath her warm smile lay a secret that could shatter the fragile peace she had built with her 18-year-old son, Jake. As she watched him sitting at the booth, carefree and engrossed in his cell phone, her heart swelled with pride. Jake had inherited her kindness, a sparkle in his blue eyes, and the same charm that had won over so many customers. Sundays were their day, filled with scrambled eggs and pancakes, laughter echoing through the diner as they shared bits about their week. Emily cherished these moments, feeling that all the hard work paid off in those smiles. But something dark loomed over her joy, a truth about Jake's father that haunted her like a ghost. The man in the faded photograph she kept hidden in the attic was just a shadow in their lives, never acknowledged, just a whisper on the wind. She had always believed that keeping Jake away from the truth was what was best, yet the lies felt heavier each day. Then it happened. Jake stumbled upon that photograph while rummaging through boxes, and his face twisted in confusion. "Mom, who is this?" he asked, holding up the image of Emily with a man who looked strikingly familiar. His voice trembled with curiosity and pain as the shadows of unanswered questions began to overshadow their sunny days. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The confrontation left Emily with a tight chest. She felt her heart race, spiraling into a panic. "Jake, it's complicated," she stammered, the fear of his impending heartbreak cloaking her every word. But Jake's determination was fierce, his desire for answers burning brightly. With that photograph, a quest ignited within him, a need to find out who this man was and why Emily had kept such a fundamental piece of himself hidden. Days turned into a whirlwind of emotions. Jake, armed with nothing but his questions, set out to find this man who stood in that photograph. The search led to a powerful businessman in town, Jake's father, living in luxury, oblivious to the existence of his son. With every inquiry, a fire burned in Jake's heart. The contrast between their lives was stark and unfair. As Emily learned of Jake's search, anger and dread gripped her. Their sacred bond was on the line, fraying at the seams, as the diner filled with the sounds of patrons enjoying their meals, laughter ringing hollow against the chaos of her heart. Soon, she would have to confront the man who could shatter everything she had built, and the man who held the potential to reshape Jake's identity. Jake's resolve intensified, desperation lacing his voice as he begged for the truth, even as a storm brewed between them. Emily felt it all, the tension, the fear, the inevitable clash. Just as she braced herself for the moment she dreaded, the diner door swung open with a loud jingle. All eyes turned toward the entrance, and there he stood, a man who could change everything. The familiar smile sent waves of cold dread through Emily. Would the truth set them free or tear them apart? The door swung wide, and in walked Alex, the man from the photograph. The ghost from Emily's past solidified into flesh and bone. Everything in the diner stilled for a moment, the chatter fading to silence as all eyes fell upon him. He was taller than she remembered, a confident stride framing a face that had once been familiar yet felt alien now. The charisma that had drawn her in all those years ago was still there, radiating from him as he scanned the room, his warm smile briefly faltering when he noticed Emily's stricken face. Jake, oblivious to the tense history between his mother and this stranger, stood. "Mom," his voice was barely a whisper, a crack in the facade of hope. The moment of clarity hit him like a cold wave. This was his father, the man whose face he had studied in that photograph, now loomed before him in a way that felt surreal. "Jake," Alex said, a note of uncertainty lacing his voice. "I didn't know." His words trailed off, and in that silence, an avalanche of feelings surged through Emily. Her heart ached, caught between the fierce love for her son and a raw anger toward the man who had walked away without a glance back. As Emily moved closer to Jake, she felt his tension rise, his body almost vibrating with confusion and running hot with anticipation. All she could think of was protecting him, but as she watched Jake's eyes light up with wonder, the desire to hold on to her past and fight for their future warred within her. "What do you want?" Emily finally breathed out, her voice low, steady despite the whirlwind of emotions clawing at her. She needed to stand her ground, to remind herself of why she had kept the truth a secret for so long. "I came to talk," Alex replied, his eyes softening as he looked at Jake, whose eyes bore striking similarities to his own. "I want to know him and I can't pretend I don't want to know you, too, Emily." With every word Alex spoke, the years of silence and resentment poured from Emily's heart like a brew bursting from its vessel. She felt anger rise in her, and yet there was a flicker of melancholy, too. All the what-ifs that had haunted her for 2 decades rushed to the surface. "Talk?" Emily echoed incredulously, her fist clenched at her side. "You left. You don't get to just waltz back in and play the father you never chose to be." Jake's gaze flickered between the two of them, the weight of their strained history becoming heavier. "Mom, maybe he has a right to don't." Emily cut him off, her voice breaking. "This isn't just about you. It's about everything I worked for, everything I sacrificed to keep you safe from him." Alex took a step forward, desperation etched on his face. "I want to be part of his life. After all these years." Emily spat, each word sharp like knives. "You want to start being a father now?" A tense silence fell over the diner, patrons whispering, glancing sideways at the unfolding drama. The familiar clink of plates and forks faded into the background, and Emily could feel the weight of their judgment, the tension palpable. Jake stood between them, confusion and longing twisting in his heart. The desire to connect with the father he had only seen in a photograph battled against his loyalty to his mother. "Mom, maybe he really does want to be here." Emily's heartbeat raced, and the walls of her carefully constructed world began to crumble. "Jake," she said, her voice trembling. But before she could gather her thoughts, Alex spoke again. "What if I can change? What if I promise to make it right?" Just then, a cold realization settled in Emily's stomach. This confrontation was only the beginning, and the real challenge lay ahead. How to protect her son while facing the man who had brought so much pain into their lives. What if the truth Alex could reveal was worse than the pain of his presence? Jake's eyes were hopeful, searching for a way forward, while Emily felt the ground shifting beneath her, uncertain of where it might lead. Could she trust him? Could she trust herself? And as she weighed the risks, a shuddering breath escaped her. What happens next could change everything. Would she fight to protect her son or confront the man who could unravel their lives? Jake drew closer to Alex, his heart leaning toward this stranger, while Emily prepared for the battle that was about to unfold. The man who had vanished was back, and neither of them was ready for what was to come. The tension in the diner hung thick like fog, wrapping around Emily and squeezing the air from her lungs. She could feel the eyes of the other patrons boring into her, judgment and curiosity mingling in their expressions. The smell of coffee and grease faded into the background, replaced by the sound of her heart thumping loudly in her chest. Jake moved a step closer to Alex, drawn in by the absence he had felt in his life. Emily's stomach twisted. She wanted to scream, to pull Jake back into the protected world she had crafted just for him. But as she looked into her son's eager eyes, a part of her wanted to understand why Alex was suddenly here. What had changed? Why now? Why now, Alex? Emily finally asked, forcing the words out through gritted teeth. Why come back after 2 decades? Was it guilt? Or do you think you can just walk in and everything will be fine? Alex's expression faltered. I've thought about it for years. I wish I could change things. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to hurt Jake. Then you should have thought about that before you left. Emily shot back, fury igniting in her veins. Jake stood frozen between them, his eyes widening as he processed the fiery exchange. The weight of the moment pressed down on him, and Emily could almost see the battle within him. He looked at his father, a man whose face had once brought comfort, then strained to remember. And then he turned to her, searching for reassurance. Mom, I need to know him. Isn't that what family is about? Jake's voice wavered, but his determination shone through. Emily felt as if a vice was tightening around her heart. Family? What did that even mean now? Hadn't she built a family without Alex? Did it all mean nothing? Her emotions boiled over, and she threw her hands up in frustration. Jake, what if he hurts us again? What if he brings more chaos into our lives? We worked too hard to build something from the ashes he left behind. Her voice cracked, revealing the sheer vulnerability underneath her fierce exterior. Alex stepped closer still, extending a cautious hand toward Jake. I don't want chaos. I want to make things right. Let me show you I can be different. In that moment, Emily felt as if the ground beneath her was crumbling. But outside, the sun began to peek through the clouds, casting a strange golden light across the diner. Could she truly believe him? Mom, please. Jake's plea broke through her resolve. As Emily stood between them, her inner turmoil rose like a tidal wave. Were her fears valid or simply walls she had built for protection? She thought of the boy Jake had become, the laughter they shared, the dreams they had together. Look, Jake, she began slowly, tears welling in her eyes. I'm scared. I'm scared of what he could bring back into our lives. I just want to keep you safe. Alex shook his head, his face softening. Safety isn't just about keeping him away from me. It's about trust, too. What if I'm here to earn that trust? That word hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Trust. The thing Emily had fought so hard to maintain, now teetering on the edge of an uncertain future. In the silence that followed, Jake's voice was barely a whisper. Mom, can we at least talk? Just talk. Give him a chance. Her heart sank. The shadows of her past were rising, and she felt herself losing the battle. But as she stared into Jake's hopeful eyes, she came to a realization: a confrontation was inevitable, but settling back into their routine without addressing these feelings would be a bigger mistake. She clenched her fists. Okay. We can talk. But only with ground rules. This isn't just about you two finding each other and throwing our lives into turmoil again. Alex nodded gratefully, a flicker of relief crossing his features. But as the words left her mouth, a new doubt crept in. What if this was a start of more heartache? The atmosphere shifted once more, tension still crackling in the air as they sat down in the booth. Jake was eager, eyes bright with anticipation, while Emily felt the weight of every secret they had carried, now painfully exposed. Would this choice lead to something beautiful, or were they opening a door that should have remained sealed? As they began to speak, the diner felt both intimate and overwhelming, a microcosm of the world they had avoided. Before Emily could process it all, a loud crash came from the kitchen, an unmistakable prelude to chaos. The door flew open, and the unexpected guest of their past had a lot to say. The kitchen door slammed against the wall, and in strode a figure that made Emily's heart drop into her stomach. It was Ray, the diner's cook and a friend from their past, someone who had seen the unraveling of her family and had never hesitated to voice his opinion. Would you look at this? The great Alex Turner, back from the dead? Ray growled. He wiped his hands on a dish towel and glared at Alex like a referee spotting a foul. Didn't he think you'd have the guts to show your face around here? Jake, bewildered and caught off guard, froze where he stood. Emily felt a mixture of anger and fear. This wasn't how she envisioned their talk beginning. Ray, keep it down. She snapped, her heart racing. This isn't your business. Another patron at the diner turned their head, the noise drawing unwanted attention. But the moment felt too charged to ignore. The simmering tension with Alex was about to boil over in front of a live audience. Not my business. Ray barked, crossing his arms. You think a man like him can just stroll back into your lives? After what he did? Emily took a deep breath, desperately attempting to keep her calm. Jake was looking back and forth between them, confusion shadowing his face. Ray, just stop. She pleaded. This is about Jake. It's his decision to make. Your son deserves to know the truth, Emily, Ray continued, his tone sharp. And the truth is that Alex isn't some hero. He is a coward who ran away. What makes you think he has changed? Emily clenched her fists, her emotions fettering between bitterness and desperation. Could Ray be right? How could she let Alex into their lives without more consequences? But Jake, he deserved the chance to make his own choice, didn't he? Jake finally spoke, his voice shaky. Mom, what is he talking about? What truth? The air prickled with a silence so thick it felt suffocating. Emily's heart wanted to scream at Jake to turn back, to forget this potential nightmare. But she realized this wasn't just about Alex, it was about Jake's future. Jake, please, she stammered, just know that people can lie or change. I've sought safety for us, and I don't want that, Mom. Jake interrupted, his frustration bubbling over. I want to know my dad. I want to live my life wondering. I can't. Just give him a chance to explain. Alex's gaze held a mix of determination and vulnerability as he addressed Jake. You're right. I owe you the truth. I made terrible mistakes, Jake. But I'm here now, willing to own up to what I did. Emily hated how the air suddenly felt lighter between them. It felt wrong. The golden rays from outside continued to pierce the diner, illuminating their faces in stark contrast to the shadows crawling through her heart. Fine, she finally breathed out, defeated. Talk. But know that my heart is not an open book just yet, and you have to earn my trust. Just as the moment hung heavy with unvoiced emotions, another crash cascaded from the back of the diner. Plates shattered and a scream pierced the air. Get down. Emily shouted instinctively, pulling Jake close. But Alex stood rooted, a look of horror crossing his face. As chaos erupted around them, a familiar voice rose above the clatter. Why didn't you come back for us? It was a question full of pain that dismantled the veil of uncertainty and reeked of decades-long resentment. Emily turned to find another figure from her past, one she had hoped to avoid forever, stepping into their fragile family reunion. The storm was here, leaving Emily wondering if they'd begun a path to healing or if they were now spiraling toward disaster. Emily's breath hitched as she recognized the familiar face. It was Claire, Alex's sister, and the tension thickened like a storm cloud overhead. The diner's lively chatter faded into a distant hum. Everyone else seemed frozen, eyes darting between the three of them as the reality of the past collided with the present. Claire. Alex croaked, shock mingling with unmistakable regret etched on his face. What are you doing here? Claire stepped forward, her hands balled into fists at her sides. You think you can just walk back after all this time and act like nothing happened? We've been waiting for you, Alex. All those years, me, Mom, and everyone. We needed you. Her voice cracked with raw emotion, each word piercing the heavy silence. Emily tightened her grip on Jake, feeling the heat of the moment. His eyes were wide, a mix of astonishment and confusion. This wasn't just about Alex anymore, the family wound was suddenly more complicated than she'd ever imagined. No one told us. Alex burst out, desperation spilling from his lips. I tried to come back. He faltered, swallowing hard. I was scared. I didn't know how to face everything. I didn't know how to be a father when I couldn't even be a son. Claire scoffed, her anger palpable. Scared? We all were. You think you're the only one who suffered? You left, and we had to pick up the pieces. Do you have any idea what that did to Mom? Emily's heart thumped as Jake looked up at her, searching for answers. She could feel his confusion rising like a tidal wave. Mom, what is she talking about? Jake, Emily hesitated, knowing that honesty would break fragile walls. It's complicated. Your dad and I didn't want you to be hurt. Why did I have to find out like this, in a diner full of strangers? Jake's voice was filled with sadness and disbelief. The boy she raised, the one who fought so valiantly against the world, was crumbling as reality settled in. Because it's the real world, Jake, Claire said, her voice softer now. It's messy, it's hurtful. But you deserve to know. You deserve to hear the truth. Ray, sensing the chaos he ignited, stepped back but kept his eyes glued to Alex. You think you can just come back and fix everything? You'll have to answer for what you did. It's not that simple. Suddenly, Emily felt the weight of the entire diner afire with judgment and gossip. The fluorescent lights flickered above as if mirroring the turmoil in her heart. The emotions in the room had shifted from tension to a charged expectation, as if everyone was waiting for some revelation to cut through the chaos like a knife. Maybe we all deserve to hear the truth, then, Alex said finally, steeling himself. So I'll tell you, Jake. I'll tell you everything. His voice trembled, haunted by years of secrets. Emily's heart raced. Lizzie and the others had abandoned the fragile hope she clung to, the hope that maybe they could escape their history, their pain. As Alex opened his mouth to speak, the door swung open again. A gust of wind swept in, and a figure appeared in the doorway. Emily squinted against the light, dread settling heavily in her stomach. There, silhouetted against the bright outside, was another ghost from her past. Suddenly, the walls of silence crashed down around her, and Emily wondered if this time, there would be any chance of leaving it all behind, or if this reunion meant they were diving headfirst into the tempest with no lifeline in sight. The figure in the doorway stepped forward, revealing a face that felt both familiar and foreign, like a piece of an old puzzle she had long tucked away. It was Mike, her stepbrother. His look was cautious, assessing the charged atmosphere, lingering on Jake before settling on Emily. A mix of surprise and empathy crossed his features, as if he held deep knowledge of the kind of storm brewing in the diner. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. Memories bubbled to the surface, memories of their childhood playful wrestling matches, late-night talks about dreams. But those memories were smudged with hints of betrayal. He had been part of her life once, but when the truths began to surface years ago, he slipped away as if the heavy silence of their family was drowning him too. Mike? She whispered, not trusting the strength of her own voice. Emily, he replied softly. The unease in him was palpable, a reflection of the uncertainty surrounding them all. He hesitated but then took a step closer, shoving his hands into his pockets. I heard you were back in town. I didn't realize. The eyes of the diner flitted between them, a shifting tide of curiosity and judgment. Emily felt exposed under their gaze. Just when she thought the situation couldn't get any more tangled, it did. Why didn't you come to me? She found herself asking, needing to understand. After everything that happened? Mike glanced at Alex, the room thick with unspoken truths. I didn't want to get pulled back into the chaos. It was easier to let go, you know. I didn't think you'd want to see me again. Easier? Claire's voice cut through the thick air. You think running away was the answer? We all needed enough. Alex shouted, the desperation making his voice crack. This isn't the time for blame. Jake, still standing beside Emily, shifted uneasily, eyes darting between the faces he barely recognized. What is going on? Can someone just tell me what is happening? With the tension thick enough to cut with a knife, it was almost unbearable. Emily squeezed Jake's shoulder, her heart aching for his confusion. She knew her son deserved clarity above all else. "Jake," she began, but the words felt trapped in her throat. Could she really unravel it all now? What would that do to him? "I can tell him," Claire interrupted, stepping toward Jake. "Maybe he deserves the truth more than any of us." Another flicker of light sparked in the diner as whispers grew louder, the murmur transforming into something closer to a raging storm. "What truth?" someone from the back shouted, and the whole room seemed to lean into that question. As the diner's chaos spiraled, Alex reached for Jake's hand, his own trembling slightly. "Maybe it's time we face it together," he murmured. His voice was steady as he turned back to Emily, his eyes fierce. "I can't do this without you." Emily's heart cracked open slightly at that, the little shard of hope pulsing within her. "Together," she echoed. "But you need to tell him everything. No more secrets." The emotions swirled as she took a deep breath, trying to summon the courage. Would revealing everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, bring them closer or tear them apart? Just then, Mike stepped forward, opening his mouth as if to speak. But instead of words, silence fell heavy around him. The curiosity in the room shifted once more, expectant, holding its breath for whatever was about to be set free. Emily glanced between her son, her ex, and her stepbrother. Could they truly untangle the knots of their messy past? And what was it going to cost them? Would finally breaking the silence make them whole, or would it shatter everything they believed they understood? Before they could answer, the power went out, plunging the diner into darkness, leaving them on the brink of revelation and chaos, a delicate balance that felt ready to tip. The sudden darkness swirled the diner into an unsettling void. There were gasps, shuffles, and a few murmured questions echoing around the cramped space. Emily felt the weight of uncertainty hung heavily like a shroud, making it hard to breathe. In the pitch black, the air felt electric with tension, vibrating with what they all hadn't said. She could hear the soft click of the door swinging open again, a small shaft of outside light splashing in, but it wasn't enough to chase the shadows away. "Everyone stay calm." Alex's voice was a beacon, cutting through the unease. "Let's just wait a moment. The lights will come back on." Emily could hear Jake's breathing quicken, could feel the pulse in his grip tightening around her fingers. "Mom, it's dark. I don't like this." "I know, honey," she said, trying to sound confident for his sake. She squeezed his hand tightly, feeling the warmth of his small palm against her own. "It's okay. We're all right here. Just stay close." Mike moved to where Emily last stood, his voice hoarse. "I'll get a flashlight from the car," he offered, stumbling over a chair in the darkness. "Just wait," Claire interjected, her tone sharper than usual. "No one needs to go anywhere right now. We need to talk. Now." "Talk about what?" Jake asked, his youthful curiosity competing with his fear. "What were you all saying? What is going on?" The silence after his question seemed to stretch, each person grappling with their own truth, with their own shame. "Jake," Claire said softly, "we've all made mistakes. It's important for you to know the truth about your family, especially about your father." "Why? What's wrong with my father?" Jake's voice was steady, but the underlying worry gave him away. He squeezed Emily's hand tighter, searching for reassurance in her presence. Because Emily hesitated, her heart racing. This was the moment. A moment that could change everything. Because there is something you need to understand about who you are, and about what happened long before you were born. Before she could continue, the lights flickered back on, bathing the diner in a fluorescent glare. All eyes turned to Emily, and she stood taller despite the tremor inside her. Shadows danced across faces, revealing shock, concern, confusion. She met Jake's gaze, willing him to understand the importance of what she about to share. "I never told you everything about your father." She glanced over at Mike, and then back to Jake. "Your father, Jake, is actually what?" Alex prompted, voice barely above a whisper, urgent. Emily felt the weight of years behind her, pressing onto her shoulders. Her mind raced with the implications. Would revealing the truth heal them or uproot everything they had built? Your father is the words caught in her throat, but as she glanced at Mike and then at Alex, she found a sudden surge of courage. Your father is Mike. Shock rippled through the room, eyes widening, mouths parting in disbelief. It felt like time stood still, the collective breath of the diner aching for the weight of the truth to settle. Jake's bewildered expression brought a sharp edge of panic. What? No. That can't be. But before Jake could grasp the implications, an unexpected tension surged through the air, causing them all to stifle a gasp. The door swung open again, revealing an uninvited figure who halted everyone's breath. The father Emily thought had abandoned them all those years. Did someone say my name? The words dripped with irony, and the room felt frozen over in a chilling silence. Dad? Jake's voice trembled, barely a whisper, but the question hung heavy, demanding answers that spun around the diner, threatening to trap them all in a cycle of truth and pain. What new revelations awaited as the past swiftly clawed its way into the present? The figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the fading afternoon light. Emily's heart raced. She hadn't seen him in years. The man who had walked away, leaving a ghost of a family behind, stood breathing the air that felt suddenly too thick. Tommy, she whispered, a name that felt like a curse now, rolling off her tongue. Jake turned to her, confusion painting his young features. Who is that? His grip slackened slightly, but she tightened her hold on him, the warmth of his little hand anchoring her as the storm of emotions swirled around them. Your grandfather, Alex spoke, voice steadying the trembling room. Jake, it's important to listen. We've been through so much without him, without me, Tommy cut in, stepping further into the diner. His voice held a mix of bravado and uncertainty. You act like I didn't care. You never even tried to reach out. Reach out? Emily couldn't contain the anger rising in her throat. You left us. You walked away from your family. Tommy's face twisted with both regret and defiance. I had my reasons. You don't understand. Then help us understand. Claire's voice pierced the tension. You can't just show up after all these years and expect everything to be fine. The hairs on Emily's arms stood on end as she felt the weight of their shared history hang overhead. The diner, once a simple haunt, was now a courtroom where their secrets would be laid bare. Jake deserves to know the truth. She exclaimed, her resolve hardening. Jake looked up at her, his innocence mixing with the fear reflected in his eyes. Mom, what is going on? Why is he here? Why is everyone yelling? Amidst the chaos, Emily crouched down to his level, smoothing back his hair. Sweetheart, there are things about our family, about your dad, about him that we need to discuss. These people in this room are all connected. It's messy, but it's real. Tommy stepped forward again, his expression softer, almost pleading. I'm here to be part of it now, son. I didn't know about you at first. But I do now. You're my blood. I can take care of you. Jake's eyes flicked back and forth between them, torn between belonging and betrayal. So, Mike is my real dad, but he's not. And this guy is? A suffocating silence followed, each person reflecting on the extent of their decisions and the tangled web they had woven. The truth was knocking at all their doors. I don't want to hear any more lies, Jake declared suddenly, a mixture of courage and confusion swirling inside him. I just want to know who I am. The air shifted, electric with so much unspoken. Tommy's facade faltered. Then let us talk, he invited, squeezing the words out like a reluctant surrender. Maybe we can start over. Emily glanced at Mike, who stood with his hands clenched, unsure, almost defeated. This was not the reunion anyone had hoped for, and yet it felt inevitable. Jake, Mike finally spoke, stepping forward. What she told you about me being your dad is true, but I love you. That doesn't change. Then who is he? Jake pointed at Tommy. If he didn't care, then why should I? As the tension reached a boiling point, Emily's stomach twisted. Did they dare open this box of broken dreams and former lives? And what if the truth of it all was too heavy for Jake to carry? Suddenly, the diner felt too small for the weight of their collective past. With every heartbeat, secrets gave way to the possibilities of their future. Outside, the sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting shadows through the diner windows that felt more like foreboding than warmth. Maybe you should talk to him, Claire said softly. Just remember, the truth can sometimes break you even more. As that thought crept in, the ringing of the bell above the door broke the tension once more, and everyone turned toward the entrance. Another familiar presence stood there, breathing in the air of history and pain, the last person any of them expected. What's all this? She demanded, and the room collectively held its breath, hearts racing with the potential for more revelations. What secrets still lay in wait? The newcomer stepped inside, her sharp gaze locking onto Tommy with a mixture of anger and disbelief. The atmosphere froze, almost vibrating with a tension that reached deep into the past. Jake's grip on Emily tightened further, his small fingers digging into her palm, as if sensing the storm that was about to break. "Mom," he whispered, eyes wide with confusion again, oscillating between these unfamiliar adults. "Is that really you?" Tommy finally managed to say, voice shaking. The years peeled back the hard exterior he had carried. "Of course it's me," came the response, dripping with scorn. "What did you think?" Emily couldn't place the woman immediately, but that voice dug into her memory, dragging forth years of buried feelings. Sarah, the sister who had always been the favorite. She was the one who stood beside Tommy even when he made the worst choices. "What the hell are you doing here?" Tommy demanded, trying to project confidence but failing. "Me? What about you?" Sarah shot back. "Waltzing in here like you haven't just broken this whole family." Tommy's face flushed, a mix of shame and anger radiating off him. "I came to see my grandson," he said, pointing at Jake, who looked bewildered by the whirlwind around him. "Your grandson?" Sarah spat the words like a poison. "You don't get to claim family now. You walked away. It was always about you. Always." The words looped through the diner, spinning around Emily like a cacophony. Jake squeezed her hand tighter, the boy caught in a storm of adult grief. "Can you all just stop?" Claire spoke up desperately, trying to bring some calm to the chaos. "Jake doesn't need to hear this. Let us focus on him." But the raw emotions hung like heavy clouds, ready to burst. "Mom, who is she?" Jake's voice was small, almost lost in the heated exchange. "She's family," Emily replied, not quite sure herself if they could still use that word. "But there are some things you need to know." "You should be the last person speaking about family," Sarah interjected, her tone bitter. "You've got your own skeletons, remember?" Emily turned to Sarah, feeling the temple of the diner close in around her. "We all do. This is confusing, but I need to protect Jake." "Let us be honest," finally, she said, her voice steady with conviction. "I just want to know who I am." Jake burst out again, anger now mingled with despair. "I don't need more fighting, or more secrets." A heavy silence fell, and Emily could see the hurt gathering in their son's eyes, reflecting all the sorrow and confusion. "Jake," Tommy stammered, eyes glistening. "I didn't mean to," but Sarah cut through again. "This isn't about you, Tommy. You walked away. You don't get to rewrite history, not here." The diner felt perilously close to unraveling. Emily, feeling cornered, reached out to Jake, kneeling to meet his eyes. "We're all learning here. We're all trying to be better," she said softly, willing him to understand. "I need you to tell me the truth," Jake stated, shifting the weight of expectation onto his mother with a resolve that went beyond his years. Okay, Emily sighed, a mix of fear and strength piquing her heartbeat. Let us talk about it, really talk. Just then, the soft jingle of a familiar voice from the register caught their attention. A woman from the diner staff approached, arms crossed, observing the scene with a mix of sympathy and frustration. Can we take this outside? You're scaring off the customers. Tommy's eyes flicked to Emily before falling to Jake again. Everyone was judgment waiting for the verdict, and if the bomb was going to go off, it might as well explode now. Outside, the sun set completely behind the horizon, the darkness stirring with new uncertainty. How far would they go to unravel these years of pain? Would the answers truly bring them closer or tear them apart? And just as new possibilities emerged, a sudden realization gripped Emily as she looked back at Tommy. What is your real reason for being here? In the heart of the storm, a truth so compelling began to rise. Would it bring healing or more heartbreak? The weight of unspoken truths hung heavy in the air as Emily's gaze settled on Tommy, the man who had walked away years ago. His presence felt like a match striking against gasoline, igniting a fire they couldn't control. Jake clutched her hand, his youthful spirit now filled with uncertainty. Mom, what is going on? He implored, desperation lacing his voice. Jake, please. Emily's voice cracked slightly. I want to explain everything. Just give me a moment. Soft murmurs surrounded them as patrons shifted in their booths, their eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and concern. For 2 decades, Emily had sought to protect Jake from the chaos his father and grandfather had caused. It was all coming to a head. This kitchen of secrets was about to boil over. Tommy stepped forward, his eyes holding a flicker of determination. Jake, I know I've made mistakes. But I want to be here for you now. I want to know you, be part of your life. Jake looked from Emily to Tommy, the confusion deepening. You can't just decide to show up after disappearing for so long. It's not fair to us. None of it has been fair, Tommy admitted hoarsely, his voice cracking. I've spent years regretting my choices. I want a chance to set things right, if you let me. Silence followed, thick as honey. Emily breathed heavily, trying to process everything that had surfaced, the bitterness, the longing, the yearning that pulsed through them all. Jake, she breathed, kneeling to his level. Your life is your own. You deserve to know your family, no matter how messy it is. But it's also important to understand the past. It shapes who we are. Another voice rose, stronger now, the steady resolve of Mike. We all made choices. But Jake, it's about what you want now. Isn't that what matters? The response hung in the air like a prayer. Feeling the weight of eyes upon them, Jake searched faces, wondering whose truth held the greatest value. Mom, what happens if we open this door? Will everything change? Emily's heart pounded as she captured his gaze, determination igniting the spirit of her answer. Things will change, yes. But not all change is bad. Sometimes, it's the chance to heal. To grow. Jake took a deep, shuddering breath, weighing each option. The anger bustling in his chest softened into quiet contemplation. So what do you want from me? Bearing the brunt of years lost, Emily leaned in. I want us to be whole, Jake. I want you to walk your own path, to know who you are and where you come from. That includes him. She gestured toward Tommy, who stood resisting the urge to step forward further, trapped inside his own guilt. The sight of their gathering family felt like an uneasy truce, and tension surged again as Claire chimed in. We're all here because of choices. None are perfect. But Jake, let us take this step into the unknown together. Whatever that means. An unexpected silence engulfed the diner, and Jake glanced around at the faces staring back at him, each longing for acceptance, understanding. Okay, he finally whispered, his voice steady. Let us talk about it. Let us understand our family. Together. Relief radiated through Emily's chest, but it was tempered with caution. Together, They faced the storms that had haunted them for years, their wounds laid bare. The diner transformed into a circle of trust as they formed a path forward through old shadows. "Thank you, Jake," she murmured, linking her fingers tightly with his. But before they could gather themselves, Tommy's voice broke through the renewed silence. "I didn't just come here to see you, Jake. I've also discovered something about your mother. It's important." Emily felt her heart drop into her stomach. "Tommy," he continued, stepping closer, "we need to face not only the past but what it did to our family. I can't run from that anymore." A chill filled the space, and tension buzzed like a live wire. "What do you mean?" Jake frowned at them, his youthful innocence now battling against a grim reality. Tommy swallowed hard. "You deserve to know the sacrifices Emily made, the struggles she quietly endured for you. It's time to show you just how brave she truly is." Emily's eyes widened, panic flooding over her. "No, Tommy, don't do this now." But it was too late. The dam broke, releasing the truth she had long buried within her, finally unfurling in the unyielding light of day. Every pain, every sacrifice echoed with renewed clarity. She felt Jake's grip tighten nervously, recognizing the tremor's earthquake beneath their fragile ties. The reckoning was here, looming, and with each confession, they shaped their destinies more than they ever bargained for. As the night embraced them, she knew they were teetering on the edge of transformation. Would honesty demolish the remnants of their family or forge paths of resilience they never thought possible? In that defining moment, the diner felt alive with the promise of change, and beneath the weight of their truths, they began to understand the meaning of forgiveness and love. Before we wrap up this emotional journey, I need you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next life-altering stories. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and help us grow. Comment your feelings about this ending, share your thoughts, and let the community hear you. Most importantly, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. This is your moment to show support. Don't wait not even one more second.